All right, we're finally at the place I wanted to start at for my night walk. It's Campo de Fiori. All right, so this is a statue of, I believe, some guy named Bruno who got burned at the stake for being a heretic. And the Romans today view him as a countercultural revolutionary. Usually there's like a huge market here of like cheese and produce and all kinds of stuff. But right now, obviously, I've never been here at nighttime. I've only been here in the daytime. At nighttime, it's just like a piazza full of restaurants and stuff. This place has good baked goods. We're gonna hang a left here and go check out that building straight in front of us. It's under construction right now, or under renovation. So to the left of the Campo de Fiori is the Palazzo Farnese, and we can't see anything. So unfortunately, you have to listen to me talk about it. So the Palazzo Farnese was made by the Farnese family. It's now the French embassy in Rome, and Rome is the capital city after all. And it was founded by the Farnese family, who basically spent a lot of money to go ahead and let people dig up a lot of ancient Roman ruins. There's two fountains over there, and those are statues that there were some Roman baths that they financed digging of. And once those Roman baths were dug up, they found all these statues and everything, and they decorated those with their palaces back in Naples and their palace here. Other than that, they had Michelangelo design the facade of that building, which we unfortunately couldn't see, but it is a beautiful building. So maybe you can look up some pictures of it, or if you're in Rome and maybe when you're here, there's no repairs going on and you can see it. So if you're in Rome, this is the place, Il Fornaio. Well, I don't know if it's any good, but he said he makes everything with margarine. So for sure there's no lard in any of the food. So actually I'm gonna find a spot here, maybe just park myself and taste some. First, let's try this pistachio cannoli. It's a more flaky, biscuity type of cannoli. It's okay. It's not that great. It's not that bad. I probably wouldn't get it again, actually. Next thing is this cool looking pistachio pie. I'm looking forward to this. I like it. It's not just a pistachio. The green is like lime, lemon lime. It's really good. Not mind-blowingly amazing good, but pretty good. I found gelato in Rome can be kind of hit or miss. So I'm gonna make some stops for gelato, because of course I am, but it's gonna be at decent places, not just any random spot that we see along the way. So Campo de Fiori is there. It's a statue of Marco Minghetti, who's one of the presidents or prime ministers of the unified Italy. Anyway, we're gonna go down. So both of these roads, as it splits off, they go down to the Piazza Navona, which is an awesome place. So we're gonna go check that out. There's a reason I came down this way. So there's a very interesting statue here on the corner. And it's not the fact that the statue itself is special, but what happens around the statue. So this statue, you'll always see graffiti on it. And so the Romans have used that statue as a place of dissidence. So they always like, if there's something that they're unhappy about, if there's something even during the Roman times, or strict, more so during the strict papal control times, there wasn't a lot of free expression. But this place and other statues like this place were where you could have free expression. You could graffiti anything you wanted, anything that wasn't politically correct, you could graffiti on there and make your voice be heard. All right, so Piazza Navona. You know, it's kind of hard to show both my face and the piazza at the same time, but man, this place is awesome. Let's go over these statues. They're works of art, the fountains, not the statues, but the statues on the fountains too. On the southern end of the piazza, we have something called the Fountain of the Moor. And the reason for that, his face supposedly looks Arabic. That's it. So this was designed in the 16th century. And it's really cool. So these weren't just fountains for the sake of beauty, or for a way of the rich showing off their wealth, they also brought life-giving water, clean water to the city. These fountains were how people didn't have plumbing running. It's not like Pompeii. In like all these houses in the Middle Ages didn't have running water plumbed straight to their houses. You know, Rome kind of went backwards in that sense. And so this is where you would come and collect clean drinking water. So every fountain was life-giving to its residents. It's just so nice here. There's a beautiful breeze blowing through the piazza, the rushing water, the people everywhere just having a wonderful time. Just lit up at night like magic. We're gonna get to that fountain, but this church is the St. Agnes in Agony. And you can kind of tell that it's got a concave, curving inward shape, and it directs your attention right to that central dome. And that's the beauty of this church. It's actually much smaller than it seems. So I know this looks like this huge, impressive facade. And it's actually, I believe, the Brazilian embassy on this side of it. And the church itself is only between those two doors. Now for the Fountain of the Four Rivers. This thing is so cool. So first of all, this is topped with an Egyptian obelisk. That thing is from ancient Egypt. They dragged it through the sand on a river all the way from Egypt when Rome conquered Egypt, all the way here. And so now you've got these four rivers representing each continent that we know of. I believe this is Asia. Let's start here. So this is the river Ganges in Asia. And this is supposed to show you the power of the papacy, how it extends to every continent. And we move on to the river Nile. And he's got his head covered because nobody really knew where the source of the river Nile was. So he's got his head, or the source of the river, covered. I have to stop every once in a while because people are taking pictures. But now we've got the Americas. And this is Rio de la Plata, between Argentina and Buenos Aires. You can see he's kind of got a Native American face to it. Some people say that Bernini made this fountain and Borromini made the church, and they hate each other, and that's why this guy is like recoiling in horror from the church because it's so ugly. And as we go around, lastly, this is the river Danube. We leave those fountains behind and we walk over to the other end. So this is the other of the smaller two fountains. And the thing about this fountain is it was made at the same time as the other smaller fountain 300-400 years ago, but no statues. Only about 100 years ago, they finally realized, wow, this fountain not having statues makes the whole thing not symmetrical at all. So then they finally decided to adorn this fountain with statues. And that was only about 100 years ago. That's Neptune. Piazza. You have the Italian Senate. So there's usually a lot of cops around here. Next to the Italian Senate is this church. San Luigi de Franceschi, I believe. Saint Luigi of the French. Man, this church cannot be missed. So I know that there's a lot of churches in Rome. You can't go to all of them. You don't have time for that. And you would get really bored really quickly. But this church should be on your to-do list. Has 3 paintings from Caravaggio. Just masterful works of art. Just the interior decoration in this place is remarkable. It's just one of the most gold, just explodes with color and radiates with gold, and it's just like the paintings are amazing. It's a smaller church, it's not huge, so you're not just taken in by like, where do I look? I had so many places to look. No. Here you will direct your attention to these wonderful works of art. Go and check this church out. It's amazing. As we continue down the street, we're gonna come to probably my most favorite monument in Rome. And you all know what it is. It's these trucks. No, it's the Parthenon. Well, that kind of ruined the view, huh? Well, this is the first time I'm seeing the Parthenon on this trip, and it's covered up by, especially the central obelisk is covered up by this barrier. A couple months ago, though, when I was here, there wasn't any of this, and you could see it in all its glory. It's cool that it looks like you're walking downhill, But really, the Pantheon here has stood for 2,000 years, and Rome used to be at a much lower ground level, and over the years you can see that the city has gotten higher and higher and higher. But this amazing, magnificent building stands here 2,000 years later for us to see. Those are its original bronze doors. It sat unused for centuries. For centuries, nobody used this place. It was locked up because, well, the church wanted nothing to do with it, that it was a pagan temple, essentially. Until they converted it into a church, nobody really cared about this place. And yet it still survived. It didn't survive unscathed, but it survived. And this, you just have to visit this place. I mean, it's honestly just, words are not enough. It's spectacular. Casa Oro del Cafe, Gold Cup of Coffee. That's the place to go when it's open, but unfortunately it's closed right now, even though I could really use a cup of coffee. There's also a really famous coffee shop behind the building. I forget its name, but apparently it's really good. I've had it, and I think it's kind of overrated personally. Obviously, you should be going inside. We can't go inside right now, but when you're here, you go inside and you don't just see the outside. That's not okay. This is that coffee shop that everybody loves that I thought was a little overrated personally. These are their specialties. And this place is... I got the shaken espresso. Delicious when you haven't had a whole day of no coffee. I like to come and look at the back to see the grandeur that must have been here. I mean, you see a little bit of that, right? It wasn't just all brick here. This was marble, decorations. The marble was probably painted in bright colors. This would have been a scene exploding with color and beauty. And now it's this awesome, amazing structure that's all brick, but it's ruins. And honestly, we're lucky to see this. We're lucky to have at least this. I know Venci's a big branch and you want to go to probably smaller branches and not franchises, but man, Venci always hits the spot. Walk a little bit down and you can come to this obelisk. And again, I want to remind you guys, these obelisks came from ancient Egypt. Anyway, behind that is the Italian Parliament. For some reason, I wanted to say the Spanish Parliament. Anyway, Italian Parliament, cool building, blah, 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 all that. So there's two cool things around here, okay? We're gonna go to cool thing number 1. Giolitti's, amazing gelato. It's back in that corner right there. So we're gonna go and get ourselves some gelato. And then we're gonna see a monument to Marcus Aurelius. You see the entire street? Everybody's coming up the street with ice cream in their hands. And there's a reason for that. This is probably the best gelato I've had in Rome. I love this place. So you order here first before you even get to the flavors. If you're tired of the ice creams, you can always try some of their baked. I'm gonna try this before it melts. I got it with the whipped cream. The whipped cream is delicious here. Oh, it's really good. That's really good. I got the almond. Oh, and the pistachio. It does not disappoint here. It's really good. I was gonna say a small for $3.50. It's kind of expensive compared to Naples, but they give you a lot. Here's the column of Marcus Aurelius. The spiraling 28 blocks of marble show a Roman victory. I think it was erected around 150-60 AD, so it's almost 1900 years old. At the top used to be a bronze statue of Marcus Aurelius, but they've since replaced it with St. Paul to Christianize the whole area. I think that happened in the 1700s, something like that. What a shame. It's pretty impressive for a monument like this to survive. Like I said, it was much easier to just grab this marble rather than quarry it somewhere hundreds of miles away and then carry it to Rome. So they used to have factories running full time, 24/7, just crushing marble from all the ancient statues and buildings and those sort of things, crushing it, making it into a powder and turning it into limestone or for mortar. Across from the column is this awesome, cool mall called Galleria something or another. It's a cool place to walk through at during the daytime when it's full of people, but obviously they close it at night. So this is the facade. Behind it is an office building with the Trevi Fountain, probably the most beautiful facade you could ever have for a building. Before we even look at the fountain, let's look at the amount of people there are there. I've seen people make videos all the way down there with nobody around them, and I don't know how that's possible, because every time I've seen this place, it's been packed to the brim. In the middle, you have Neptune being pulled by a chariot, and you've got some tritons by his side also helping pulling his chariot. You can see all the hustle and bustle around here. I love the Trevi Fountain. It's so much fun. So I'm going to continue on to the Spanish Steps. There's a couple other things to see along the way. Of course, any gelato or anything you get around here is going to be super touristy. It's not going to be that good, and it's going to be expensive. But on the other hand, you can eat it next to the Trevi Fountain. Giulitti's is much better. By the time you get here, it's probably going to melt. So the amazing thing about Rome over the years, in ancient Roman times especially, was the fact that it had access to this clean drinking water. And this drinking water was brought to Rome from many miles away, like 10, 20, hundreds of miles away. And that was through the aqueduct system. And that's how Romans could have fresh water that wasn't like the local water, because the River Tiber water was nasty. Like, people had been defecating in that water and everything, so you didn't want to drink that water. And so when the Roman Empire fell, they totally forgot where these aqueducts were. They got buried up. People didn't know where they were. And so Romans couldn't get clean drinking water anymore. It became like this medieval city that was just crap water. They drank alcohol. You know that famous trope of, we drink alcohol because it's the only disinfectant thing that we can drink and not water. And then in the 1600s, somebody found a book that had the location of all those aqueducts, and they were able to rebuild them. And that's how you have these Baroque fountains in Rome. And the reason that they're Baroque is because that's when the aqueducts were rediscovered, and that's when they could find out how to get clean water into the city again. Unfortunately, we can't see it at night, but that's the McDonald's right there. And behind this gate is the aqueducts. And that's what would bring in all the clean drinking water to Rome. Anyway, on to the Spanish Steps. Almost to the Spanish Steps, we have this church called the San Andrea della Frate. So apart from being a church designed by Borromini and being cool and interesting on the inside, of religious significance to the Catholics is a Jewish convert to Catholicism back in the 1800s. This is like a the church agrees that this is a miracle, because not everything the church will say is an actual true miracle. But apparently the Virgin Mary appeared to this guy, and the church corroborated this. So to the Catholics, that's like a real miracle of the Virgin Mary appearing to somebody in the 1800s, and that was at this church. So it's important to Catholicism in general. Right next to it, before we get to that obelisk, is this propaganda building. So in the Counter-Reformation, which is led by the Jesuits, when the Protestant Reformation happened, basically the Catholics were in full gear of like, let's tell people that Catholicism is the right thing. And so in the Counter-Reformation, this was the propaganda building, and this is where they would print out pamphlets and do all kinds of propaganda to promote Catholicism over Protestantism. This column is a column of the Immaculate Conception. It has the Virgin Mary at the top. Do you see the wreath on her? Oftentimes they put flowers on her. And so what this plaza, or what this column does, this column is a celebration of the formalization of the Immaculate Conception theory. So that happened in 1857, and before that, like the church people, the Catholic Church some people had this idea of the Immaculate Conception and some people didn't, but it was formalized. And what that means is that they believe that all human beings are born with sin, but that the Virgin Mary, when she was conceived in the womb, she did not have the original sin of Adam and Eve, so she was born sinless. and that's Immaculate Conception, and that is what that column celebrates. And now we're at the Spanish Steps, or the Piazza della Spagna. We're gonna start from the top. So there's a French church at the top. It's very much involved with French culture and French history. Whenever there's a French event, it happens at that church. Then you have this famous the Spanish Steps rather, and then there's a big Christmas tree that usually goes there, and a lot of people take pictures here. We're here at night. That's why it's so empty. Anyway, then this famous fountain by Bernini. It's so cool. It's supposed to represent the sinking of the flooding of the river Tiber and the sinking ship, but the design is amazing. You don't need to see me. You need to see this fountain. So the design, because of water pressure here was so low, he decided to make this sinking ship design. So you don't have these huge jets and these large columns shooting up water. Because of water pressure here, you just can't support that. So he made this really cool design that utilizes the lower water pressure of this area and incorporates that into his design. Apart from that, just down in that street is a pasta shop that sells pasta for like €4. Amazing. Go there, and there's a lot of high-end, expensive shopping around here as well. You can also go to the Keith Shelley House Museum, which has a lot of English literature around. Other than that, obviously go to the top, go to the obelisk, take a picture, visit the church, take in the surroundings, and enjoy the company of your fellow human beings all around you. That's it. That's my walk. Hope you enjoyed it. I really got a whole new perspective of this whole area, walking it at night versus walking it during the daytime. It's so much less busy. There's less people. It's nice and cool. It's not hot. It was a lot of fun for me, and I hope any people that saw this video inspires you to come here and visit these places yourself, because it's truly magical here.